Hi friends, it's Lauren Taylor. Thanks for joining me in my craft room. It's the last day of the month, so I have some Halloween inspiration. I'm so sorry I missed last month. It's been kind of busy and crazy, as you've heard when I'm doing my color and chat catch-ups in my previous videos, but we're going to get right back to it for this month. I am hopping along with some of my crafty friends for Twiddler's Nook Spooktacular, so make sure you check over all of our projects over on Instagram. So I'm going to be using Twiddler's Nooks products today. I also have some fun fandom and just overall really cute things. I am using some paper from the Monster Mash 12 by 12 paper pad from Social Paper Plan. It's adorable. You should totally grab it. I'm also using my dies from PopsicleSticks, the mini Slimline dies, which makes a card that measures 6.5 by 3.5, which is a wonderful mini Slimline size. I also have stamps from the Sassy Club, one of my favorite go-to fandom companies. So this is the Spooky Fam stamp set, and I'm going to be using the iconic couple for my card today. So I've been doing some die cutting while I've been listing my products. I started with die cutting the largest mini Slimline, which again is 6.5 by 3.5 out of that Monster Mash paper. And then I used the scalloped frame out of some glitter paper. This is the Spring Sparkle Cardstock from Fawn. I'm using the green. I thought it matched pretty darn close to that sea monster on the paper pack. I also trimmed a piece of acetate to be slightly larger than that inside window of my scallop frame so I can make a shaker card. I had these scrap pieces from die cutting what part I wanted to be the background of my shaker card, and I didn't want it to go to waste, so I thought I would cut out a few of these cute little kind of Monster Mash party icons, and I'm going to add them to my card. So I have my background, my frame, my acetate, all for my shaker. I also have my cute little icons that I'll add to the card, and I'm going to work on now die cutting the banner for my sentiment. So I wanted to match the pinks in the paper, so I'm using Ballet Slippers cardstock from Lawn Fawn, and I'm die cutting the largest banner from the mini Slimline stitched layer dies from PopsicleSticks, and again die cut it from that pink paper. I'm going to stamp my sentiment on it. I did notice that I need to clean my dies. I think I die cut something that had ink on it previously, so I'm just using a sand eraser to get that ink off the edges of my banner die cut. I'm going to stamp the sentiment, "You are dearer to me than all the bats and all the caves and all the world," which is such an amazing sentiment. And I'm going to stamp that onto the pink banner. So I'm going to use my Misty to help me get that stamp lined up in place. And it allows me to stamp twice if needed. So I'll get that centered onto my banner, and then I'm going to use VersaFine and Onyx Black to stamp my sentiment. I stamped it twice just to make sure I had a nice, clean, crisp sentiment. Now let's move on to stamping our characters. I'm going to go ahead and clean up my desk a bit. I'm using my Twiddler's Nook magnetic tray just to keep those little icons in. And then I'm going to later on use some of the Gone Batty embellishment mix. So I have that in my tray ready to go for later as well. I'm going to stamp again that to the couple, the iconic couple from this Spooky Fam stamp set. And I'm using some alcohol marker friendly cardstock. This is just a nice smooth white cardstock. And I'm going to use my Sassy Club Onyx black ink to stamp my characters. It is an alcohol marker friendly black ink. It's my favorite. I use it all the time. In fact, I really need to get another one because it's getting a little, I wouldn't say dry, but I definitely have to stamp more than once to get a nice clean image. Another great reason to use the Misty. So I did stamp it twice. I used a kind of a pressure tool to help make sure that I got a good clean image. I went ahead and cleaned off my stamps, put them away, and let me zoom in here so you can see my coloring. I do speed up my coloring even more because I am a slow colorist, but at least you can see the techniques that I use for coloring. I am using the markers that are just in front of me on my desk, which is a mix of Ohuhu Honolulu Bee alcohol art markers, and I do have a few COPICs, mostly skin color tones. There was a sale at a local, big store, so I did pick up a few colors. I don't have a lot of COPICs, but I do have some skin tones, so we're using them today. You can see the caps on my screen, so if you are interested in the colors that I'm using, I will do my best to always make sure I have the caps showing on that little piece of mint tape. It's just my little space to make sure I have the cap in frame for you. I do my best to try to keep my colors to 2 to 3 for shades. I do use 4 a couple times here, but I did use only 2 for my husband here. And for the wife, I'm actually going to use 4 because I think I started out a little too dark than I wanted. I wanted her to look like she is a person of color, but she's also very pale. So I think I went a little too dark in my shading, so I try to bring in lighter colors as I blend out the color that I already have on for her skin. So I'm going to do 4 colors. But again, that's mostly just because I wish I would have started a little bit lighter for her skin tone. But I'm going to go through, and I end up using 2 shades of black for my characters as well. I'm going to use warm grays for their clothes and cool grays for their hair. I looking at it at the end, I think I wish I would have switched it. I wish I would have done cool grays for the clothes and warm grays for the hair, but I think it looks great. I just didn't want them to have the exact same shades of black for their hair and their clothes to be, one solid color. I wanted it to give them some personality a little bit than just like all the same shade of black. But, color to what you think looks best. If you're going to copy this in any way, like I said, I think I wish I would have switched the two. But again, I don't claim to be an expert colorist by any means. I'm just showing you how I like to color, which is just to have fun. So while I'm coloring, let's do a little catch up. I can't believe it's the end of May. That's crazy. Summer is here for my daughter, which is nuts. I mean, she still stays pretty busy with all of her different camps and things because I still have to work, but it's just so crazy that we're moving on to the next grade. She's not thrilled about it. I'm not thrilled about it. But so that's life, right? But we do have a fun summer plan. She's got lots of cool camps. I have to travel a little bit this summer for work. There's just been a lot going on. We just have a lot, too much, I think, going on in our lives, but I love all the volunteer work that I do with Girl Scouts. So definitely just trying to find a better work-life balance. That's my goal for the summer before school starts and Girl Scouts starts again. Just making sure I have time for myself and my family. Outside of work, Girl Scouts, and even crafting. I do a lot of crafting. But it's been a really good year and so far, and I'm looking forward to what the future brings this year as I try to dive in and, like I said, create a little bit better of a work-life balance to be more present with my family. But I have been really enjoying this hop every other month. It's always on the 31st. So this is the third one we've had. We had one in January, we had one in March, and now it's May. And this is Amanda from Twiddler's Nook's hop. And I absolutely think it's so cool that she wanted to do a Halloween hop on the 31st because it just jumps right into something that I've already been doing, which is Halloween products on the last day of the month. So it's been fun to use her products, intentionally. I still use her blending brushes almost all the time. They are my Oxide blending brushes that I use. But it's been fun to be intentional about using her products on these days of the Spooktacular Hop. So if you haven't joined us before, you can find my Instagram down below in the description. It's usually towards the bottom. I will be intentional about adding it to the description in an easy to find place, so that way you can hop along with us and see everyone's creative projects for Halloween. There's a lot of amazingly talented people on the hop. I'm so honored to be a part of that. So you should definitely check it out if you haven't. I am winding down here on my coloring. I finished off my wife here and I'm moving into the husband. I don't really have anything different than how I colored the wife because it's the same colors. For his hair, I did the same thing as her hair. And for his clothes, I will say that I just used the two darker warm gray shades for his tie and shoes, and then I went with the lighter grays for his suit because he actually, I mean, most of the iconic photos of him, he's wearing a pinstripe suit and the pinstripes are white, but I didn't really know how to incorporate that into the outfit since he wears it's black mostly. So I thought it would look pinstripe if I didn't color his suit too dark. So I'm just going to use my two lighter shades of the um, warm grays, so that way it doesn't look too black. The pinstripes really still stand out and give that effect that he's wearing his black pinstriped suit. I hope, at least I hope that's what comes across with the colors. But so let's jump back into chit chatting here. June is going to be a little busy. I have to travel for work, which is always a bummer. So my content might slow down a teeny tiny bit in the beginning of June, but that's just because I need to travel. And it's not too long, but you know, I do have a daytime job. And then I'm really excited because later in the month, I'm volunteering for a week. I took a week off work to be at our Girl Scout summer camp for the week, just our local day camp. It's going to be a lot of fun. Our troop is hosting the overnight. We have one camp out night, and they're working on their bronze award, which is to make sock warmers for kittens. So I'm really excited our troop is hosting this service unit event. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. But I love doing the summer camp. Last year, I was only able to volunteer for a couple days, so I'm looking forward to doing that. But June's going to be busy, but I will do my best to keep content coming for you guys. Let me know in the comments below if there's anything specific you want to see next month, because I would love to make sure I'm making things that you want to watch. Okay, so to finalize my coloring, I added a little bit of, I guess it's called stippling, little dots here and there on my images. I love that, the way that PopsicleSticks does it, so I tried to emulate her style a bit on that. And then I did go out of the lines on my husband's teeth, so I used a white gel pen just to make his teeth look white again. I did realize when I was all done and taking photos that I didn't do any white highlights this time, but that's okay. They still look really great without any additional white highlights, and I can always add it later. I fussy cut out my images, including the little tiny spot between my wife and her rose. All I do for that is use a hole punch to poke a hole and then take my little tiny scissors to get in there and cut that little space out. Now to move on to building my shaker card. Now that all my elements are ready, I'm taking some 1/4 inch double-sided adhesive and I'm adding it to all four sides of the opening on the back of my scalloped shaker frame. I'll go ahead and peel off all the release paper. This is where using a craft pick would have been smart, but that's okay. My nails aren't too short. I'm able to get off the release paper. And I'm taking my acetate sheet here and adding it to the back side of the frame, making sure it is sealed. And then I'm going to take some 3mm foam adhesive. This is from scrapbook.com. It's a little thicker just so I can make sure my shaker bits really have a lot of space to move. The clay bats, and I'm actually going to bring in another shaker mix, which is the holographic hearts. They're not very thick, so I think you can get away with just like your standard 2mm thickness foam, but I wanted to use 3 just to make sure there was plenty of room. And I'm actually doubling up in the sense that I'm making it wider. So this foam strip is 1/8 of an inch, but there's plenty of room for a 1/4 inch. So I want to make sure there's nice stability on the back of my shaker frame. So I'm just using 2 strips and going around all 4 sides, just like I did with that double-sided adhesive roll. Also making sure that there are no openings for my shaker bits to escape. So just make sure that all of your foam butts up next to another piece, that there aren't any openings for your shaker elements to escape. So I'm adding those black clay bats. Again, this is from Twiddler's Nook Gone Batty embellishment mix, but I felt like it was just missing something. I wanted some shine, so I'm bringing in that holographic hearts embellishment mix, also from Twiddler's Nook, and sprinkling in quite a bit of those. I went pretty heavy. This is a really large shaker window, so you can have lots of shaker elements. You don't have to worry about it being too little or being in my opinion, too full, but I didn't want to make it too full that you couldn't see all the fun elements in that pattern paper, because a lot of it will be covered with adding in these little touches, so I still wanted to be able to see some of those elements in the background. Now that the shaker panel is put together, let's move on to adding all of our stamped and cut out touches. I'm going to start with my couple. I want the husband on the left and the wife on the right. I just think they looked balanced that way. And of course, she needs to be in the front because he would never step in front of her. He adores her so much. And I wanted to add a little bit of shading to my banner. So I brought out Distress Oxide and Victorian Velvet in one of my Twiddler's Nook stand-up blending brushes. It has a little magnetic cap on the bottom, and it will stick to my magnetic tray, which is so cool. You can see it just stands up so perfectly. And I just blended on some of that Victorian Velvet to the edges of my banner just to give it a two-tone look and to match those colors in the background pattern paper. To attach my images, I'm just going to use my tape runner. This is from scrapbook.com. It's the dotted one. It's repositionable for just a little bit. So if I don't get something stuck down right away in the right spot, I can pick it up and move it. And I'm adding my husband. I'm using the grid on my glass board here to try to make sure they look centered on the card. And I will add the wife as well. After that, I want to add in some of my little cut out embellishments from the pattern paper. So I'm going to tuck them just under, a lot of them, just under the frame. There's a little bit of wiggle room I can slide things under from where I placed my double-sided adhesive on the back. So I'm going to just add my adhesive to the cut out piece and then glue it on to the acetate, trying to tuck most of them under the frame a bit. And I'm going to repeat that for all these little pieces. So I have my record and my music note and star on the right. I'm going to put this bat, and I'm going to trim the flower a little bit so it kind of sticks under the frame. It was a little too big. But I have the bat, the flower, and the other two music notes for the right. And then I'm going to place that last bat on the left. So I have one on each side, and it fits so well with the sentiment along with the bat shaker elements inside the shaker. For my sentiment, I didn't want it to glue straight onto my character, so I'm going to use some more foam, but this time I'm using 1mm, so it's a little bit thinner since I already have 3mm for the shaker panel itself. So added some pieces behind my sentiment, and then I'm going to line it up onto my card and get that attached to the more towards the bottom of my mini slimline. Now, like I said, this slimline measures 6.5 by 3.5 inches. So I'm going to cut my white cardstock down, and I actually cut things backwards because I'm too lazy to get out the side piece of my paper trimmer. So I trimmed off 4 inches to make it 7 and 2 inches to make it 6.5. And then I'm scoring the 7-inch side at 3.5. So I have a 6.5 by 3.5 card base. I hope that made sense, but overall you just want to make sure that it's 7 by 6.5 and you fold it in half on the 7-inch side. So I have my card base ready to go. I'm going to bring out my Scotch tape runner. It's my go-to for attaching panels to card bases. It's super sticky, super sturdy. It's not going anywhere. And I always line up my card fronts to my card bases starting at one of the scored sides corners, and that just allows me to be able to trim off any excess of my card base if it shows, like it is right here. There's a tiny little sliver. I was slightly off in trimming my paper down in comparison to the die cut rectangle, so it just gives me the area to be able to trim down that excess with some really large scissors. Here is a close-up look at my Halloween card for May 2024. It's my mini slimline shaker card, and of course using Twiddler's Nook's products for my project. I hope you had fun with me today. Maybe you learned something new. Maybe you just tuned in to see what products I'm using today. But again, I hope you enjoyed today's video, and don't forget to head over to Instagram. You can use the link in my description below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll click like, and if you're new here, I hope you'll subscribe and come back. As always, you can find everything I use down below in the description box. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Bye!